It's my pleasure to introduce you to Eliza Title, who just returned from a 2 week trip from Egypt, Joni Maro, head of product, who lived in Egypt for 5 years, and Ruby Russell, also UJV Africa luxury destination specialist, who has been to Egypt several times and has been selling Egypt since early 2000s. To what we can expect today, we're gonna do an honest and thoughtful review about Egypt. If you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to write it in the chat, and we will host a Q&A after the presentation. Thank you, everyone.
All right, everyone. Hi, how are you? So I'm really excited to kick off this presentation. Like Mariana said, my name is Joni Morrow. I work on the product department at Ultimate Jet Vacations. And I actually spent 5 years of my life, and I've been traveling a few years or a few times since, living and working throughout Egypt as an archaeologist. And before that, I had dedicated myself in academia to studying Egyptology. And so Egypt really is not just a destination to me. It shaped my life, and it's incredibly personal for me. And I hope that each and every one of you, if you go or you have clients go, that you have a similar personal experience, because it's an incredibly welcoming, relaxed, and accessible country for travelers. Safety is usually something that people ask about and are curious about. It's an incredibly safe place to go. And it's more accessible now for the luxury traveler than it has been in years prior. So now is really an excellent time to go. Everyone who sets foot in Egypt really thrives. It is a country that feeds your soul. And I can speak to it from personal experience. I know Alyssa, I know Ruby can as well. And it's incredibly stable and welcoming. And I say that not just as a former archaeologist, but actually as a woman and as a mother who would not hesitate to bring, my own family to Egypt. It's an incredibly warm culture. It's an incredibly warm country. And for many travelers, Egypt it's a very meaningful and comfortable introduction to the Arab world. And it really blends all of that culture, cuisine, shopping, and history together. And so we're going to go through some customizable itineraries today. Elise and Ruby are through their own personal experiences as well. That goes beyond just like your classic pyramid temple highlights. Next slide. Perfect. So Egypt has really been a sought after destination since the times of the ancient Greeks and Romans. It's been a tourist destination for thousands of years. Its ruins, some dating back over 5,000 years, make it a paradise for history lovers and lifelong learners. For thousands of years, Egypt has been a source of wonder and awe from everyone who has visited. It has always had this enduring mystery and intrigue. I think we all feel it. We've all had it. We've all dreamed about Egypt at some point in our life, whether it was in sixth grade when we first learned about it in school, or maybe you have a lifelong obsession with it like me. And even if you are not academically inclined, if you're not a history buff, the experience is profoundly moving. And I think what's even more intriguing is that it's been profoundly moving for everyone who has visited for millennia. And the history continues to surround you at every step. It's really like a proper outdoor museum. You have the modern cityscapes that blend seamlessly with iconic temples and monuments, and the Nile still flows as it did thousands of years ago. The desert landscape is still humbling and vast, and you are not simply observing the history, but you are walking through it. And having that pure immersion is what makes everyone able to thrive and enjoy their stay in Egypt. And there's really something transformative about standing in a place that has endured for millennia, and that will undoubtedly apply to everyone, especially if you're traveling as a family or in multi-gen groups. It's just really this huge shared experience to see some of the wonders of the ancient world. And so before I pass it on to Ruby, I just really encourage everyone to arrive with an open mind and an open heart, and really let that thousands of years of culture, the warmth of the people, and the living history envelop you as we take you on our journey to Egypt. So, Ruby, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're super excited to be officially um, announcing selling Egypt. We have been doing it. I've been doing it for years, and I know that we have wonderful experience, but we wanted to kind of share with you how we can help you sell this wonderful destination. So I love planning like multi-generational destinations, like for families. And what's so amazing about Egypt is it has something for everyone. It really does. And families can travel together and each and every person will be engaged in some aspect. I think back to when I was a child looking at the cover of a National Geographic magazine and seeing those pictures and just being in awe. So the first time I went to Egypt, it was like I was in that magazine, like I saw that, I was able to experience it. And as much as the world continues to change, it's the same. Like those pyramids have stood the test of time, the temples. So that part is just super exciting. Um, there's things obviously people are going to want to see the pyramids at Giza, see the Sphinx, go on a cruise on the Nile, see Abu Simbel. But for like our multi-generational families, grandparents, parents, and kids, you've got some really fun things that you can do, interactive. You can go shopping in the bazaar. You can actually yeah, I did perfume making when I was in Cairo. You can have things made in hieroglyphics. You can visit like a Nubian village near Aswan, hot air ballooning. So not just learning the history, the culture, seeing the beauty of the monuments, but there's little things that we can kind of feed into the itinerary to just really make it engaging for everyone. So super excited about that. I guess next slide, please. The the one thing is we always try to manage people's expectations, right? We want to make sure that they understand what the destination is and kind of what to expect. One of the things that we at UJV Africa do is we will actually get on the phone with our clients and kind of talk through the itinerary and explain to them the experiences that they're going to have. But kind of right up front, things to keep in mind for your clients is if you've got people who are not interested in history or are, not into Arabic culture, Egypt is probably not the place for them. The other thing is people with limited mobility, difficult, if you have difficulty navigating uneven terrain, um, it's something to consider. There are ways that we work around that. So if you have like someone who maybe needs to walk with like a cane or something or walk a little slower, we have private guides, they work with you, but definitely not something that I would consider fully handicap accessible. With that being said, if you have certain situations, let us know. We can work on, helping manage clients. One thing is this is not a outdoorsy kind of, I'm going to go climb the Inca Trail or, go cruising around and exploring Patagonia. So if you've got that type of client, again, this might not be the right fit for them. So just to keep that in mind, next slide, please. So designing Egypt, it does matter how we do it, when we do it. It's a wonderful standalone destination. Um, it's something that, you know, I like for clients who are like, okay, I want to go away for a little more than a week. I want to be able to really kind of experience something, get away from, not necessarily maybe do an island or do some cities in Europe. Egypt is close enough that you can do something like that. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, one thing is we need to know what your clients' interests are. If they are, if they're really excited about the archaeology part, so someone like Joni, who then we need to know that because we can definitely work in certain things and we would definitely make it more archaeological focused. If we've got someone who is more into culture and, the kids love the movie The Mummy and we can kind of incorporate different aspects of, kind of the history and work that in. So again, that information given to us, we can work on making it pacing the itinerary so that clients make the most of their time in Egypt and just can get the most of all the wonderful things that they can offer. So anyway, next slide, please. The big question is when to send clients to Egypt. One thing is, me as being in the travel industry, I have had the pleasure of going in the summer, which the temperatures are extremely hot and not ideal for most clients. I've also been able to travel, during peak season and shoulder season. So there's benefits to traveling all year round. I don't know if you all know, I live in the Chicago area. I am definitely not someone who embraces heat. But with that being said, I survived. I traveled. I had a wonderful time. So my first impulse is when can you go? And let's see what we can do. But as far as the ideal time, peak season, weather is amazing. It's going to be, just our winter months, so December to February. Shoulder season is probably ideal for most as long as you're not working around like school schedules and things like that, because the weather is very pleasant and of course there's fewer crowds. The other thing is pricing is definitely a little bit uh, more agreeable or pocketbook friendly when you travel in the shoulder season and obviously in the summer season. So I think that is it. Now I am going to kind of pass the torch over to my colleague Alyssa, who she just got back from an incredible trip to Egypt. So I'm super excited about hearing what she did and sharing all that with you.
Thanks, Ruby. Hi, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. As my colleagues Ruby and Joni have mentioned, Egypt is a phenomenal destination that really does cater to a wide audience. So I will be taking you through why timing matters, a map of Egypt, as well as a sample itinerary, which is very much in line with what I did, and how we can really elevate that experience to get away from the cookie cutter itineraries that Egypt can do, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we really want to focus on curating those experiences to make your itineraries really stand out, really cater to your clients' interests. Why does timing matter now more than ever? Egypt is very much top of mind again. The Grand Egyptian Museum, the GEM, just opened. It began construction in 2005. I had the pleasure of going, and wow, it is incredible. Some of the many highlights at the gem are the ancient solar boat of King Khufu. They're currently putting a second solar boat in there now, so I actually got to see the construction of that exhibition space, which was very special. Of course, one of the major highlights of the gem is that it does have the complete collection of Tutankhamun's treasures displayed for the very first time since their discovery in the 1920s. And of course, it has that colossal statue of Ramses right at the entrance. It's incredibly dramatic. Travel demand is definitely returning to pre-COVID levels, especially with the upcoming August 2027 solar eclipse. We are seeing a huge increase of demand, and we can only expect that demand to increase further. That said, I always say that Egypt is not a last-minute destination. The cruises and the flights are selling out, and last-minute availability is becoming increasingly harder to find. There is still some. That said, ideally, we would be looking at 3 to 6 months plus for booking Egypt. If we could go to the next slide, please. I'll just show you briefly a map of Egypt. Most of the itineraries will start in Cairo at that number 1, fly south to Luxor, where you typically embark the Nile cruise, though you could do a reverse order of that as well. If you are embarking in Luxor, you would disembark in Aswan, or if you're doing it the other way, you would fly Cairo to Aswan, embark in Aswan, and then sail to Luxor. A couple different ways to do it. We have Abu Simbel, which is easily done as a day trip from Aswan, and I'll touch on that later. We have possible extensions to Sharm el-Sheikh on the peninsula, Alexandria at the north of Cairo, and more, which my colleague Ruby will touch on later in the presentation. If we could go the next slide, please. So what would a sample itinerary look like? Again, as Ruby mentioned, Egypt is highly customizable, and this really depends on the preferred pacing of your clients. I typically like to recommend 1 full day at leisure in Cairo, or at the very least, a morning of leisure followed by afternoon touring. Most international flights will land past midnight, and when I went, I did not take into consideration any time at leisure. I jumped right into it. It was a very jam-packed day. Definitely amazing, but it is hard to absorb the information with the jet lag. So I think having 3 to 4 nights Cairo, building in time at leisure is essential. From there, you fly to Luxor. You will typically stay on land in a hotel in Luxor before the Nile cruise. Again, here we can really customize what your clients are seeing. I only had 1 night. If I could do it again, I would definitely do at least 2 nights. There are some incredible sites in Luxor, incredible hotels. And, if you have clients who like to have kind of a more leisurely pace, if time allows, really spacing that out would be hugely beneficial. A Nile River cruise, typically 4 nights for the best pacing. Aswan, you typically spend 1 night on land. That includes a day trip to Abu Simbel. And again, we'll touch on these logistics a little further on. If we could go next slide, I'll just take you through a sample itinerary. So all of our trips include VIP meet and greet on arrival in Cairo. You're met off the plane with a motorized golf cart. You are taken to a VIP lounge. The lounge has a full buffet, including coffee, tea, soft drinks, and food, which is great because, again, you're arriving pretty late at night, and by the time you get to the hotel, you're probably not going to want to order room service. You're probably just going to want to shower and go to bed. The local representative will obtain your Egypt visa on behalf of your clients, so they don't have to worry about doing this in advance, and they actually collect the luggage for your clients. This entire process, when I was just there, took about 20 to 30 minutes, so it is amazing to have it. You are tired, you're not having to worry about navigating a big airport, and then of course you have your private transfer to the hotel. Every custom trip that we do in Egypt has either an Egyptologist or local guides in Cairo and for the cruise portion. Our preference is to have a private Egyptologist throughout, though sometimes for budget travelers, we do include local guides instead. The local guides are, of course, still excellent. One of the things that I like to note is that when we do an Egyptologist, the Egyptologist actually travels with your clients throughout the entire itinerary. So this really does add to the seamless logistics, the navigation of airports, and they can tie in information that they're giving you in Cairo versus the cruise portion, whereas the local guides are, again, fantastic, but they might repeat some of the information that your local guide said in Cairo. So again, we really focus on privatized touring. While the touring is arranged in advance, if your clients want to be more spontaneous and go shopping or change the pickup time, change the drop-off time, they can do that locally with their Egyptologist. For value adds in Cairo, one of the things that I did is a very special access moment, and this is my picture on the right. I actually did a private visit to the Sphinx Pause. This is not very well known. It is subject to government approval, and to say that it was a once in a lifetime experience would be an understatement. Upon arrival at Giza, you are taken to a private lounge. Again, soft drinks are there. They have some nice maps. It's very relaxing. You take a private golf cart to the Sphinx, you meet the guards, and you begin actually walking down. So most people who see the Sphinx are viewing it from the side or from the front to get that iconic Sphinx pyramids view. But this allows you private access for 1 hour. You can actually go around the entirety of the Sphinx. I see we have a question regarding the rate. That does depend on the number of people and the time of the year. So definitely, if that is of interest, of course, we can quote that as an optional add-on. Following the webinar, we'll also touch on some follow-up information regarding a sample itinerary and what these add-ons look like. The private access really does allow you to get up close and personal. They typically do it once a day. Again, it is subject to government approval, so it is a lengthy process. However, that's why you come to us. Even if you don't have private access to the Sphinx Pause, you can still reserve a 2-hour golf cart for your clients. Giza is a very large site, so the alternative is that you're taking a bus around the various viewpoints to the pyramids, to the Sphinx. The bus doesn't always have availability. So for ease of access and for flexibility and to maximize your time, even if we're not doing a special access moment, you can still do that golf cart. Pre-booking is required, but it is highly recommended that we add that in. If you have very high-end clients, we can also offer special experiences at the Gem, which is very exciting. There are a variety of after-hour packages that we can arrange. One includes the standard package, which is after hours to the main galleries. There's another one specifically for the King Tut galleries, which is on the top level. Another one for Khufu's boat museum, or a package that includes after hours to the whole museum. Hotels in Cairo. There are different options for hotels in Cairo. I really like and stayed at the Four Seasons Nile First Residence. It's attached to a mall with high-end designer shops. The property has 6 restaurants and lounges. They actually have a houseboat on the Nile, which is fun. You can't walk there, but the concierge can arrange a car to take you back and forth to dinner. There's a full-service spa, a fitness center, a sauna. For those familiar with the Grand Bretagne in Athens, I like to compare the two. Stylistically, the rooms are very similar. It has that old world charm with thick carpets and chandeliers. If your clients are wanting something a little bit more boutique, a little bit more unique, there is Mazij Balad, which is a fairly newer property. It has only 5 rooms. It's very compact at 4 floors. It is an adult-only property. However, there is no spa or fitness center on site. The modern decor is definitely evident, doesn't feel as traditional. I would say Mazij Balad is more for your artistic clients. It's a very unique design. And one thing to note is that the rooms here are smaller than the Four Seasons. Cairo also has all of the major luxury brands. So they have Ritz, St. Regis, Fairmont, Sofitel, Marriott, and more. Again, really understanding your clients' properties that they've stayed at in the past will help us tailor that hotel selection. If we could go to the next slide, please. From there, you will fly to Luxor. So it is an early morning flight from Cairo to Luxor. The hotel packs breakfast boxes for your clients. The early morning flight is definitely best logistically because once you land in Luxor, you're going straight to Karnak Temple to get ahead of the crowds. By the time I landed, it was 8 a.m. By 8:30 or so, we were at the temple, and it was, of course, still crowded. As I've said, the crowds are returning to Egypt, but it was a lot less crowded than if you were to go later in the day. It also allows you more time to explore there. I stayed at Al Mudira, which is a phenomenal hotel Most hotels are located on the East Bank, where Karnak and Luxor temples are located. Al Mudira is on the West Bank of the river, so it is remote. It is literally in the heart of farmland on a working farm. Very unique, very special, consistently recognized by Condé Nast. It actually just got featured on the gold list. It has 54 rooms and suites. It has private villas with pools. It's a large property, but the rooms are divided into courtyards, so it feels a lot more manageable. The property is very popular with artists and celebrities. It is a quiet retreat in a large city. So again, really determining your client's preferred pacing, this would be a phenomenal place to just spend an afternoon at leisure. The property has working artisan studios, which I really enjoyed. You can visit those. They also have a working farm. They have the most incredible farm to table meals, a swimming pool, a Moroccan hammam, a fitness center. Definitely a very luxurious stay. Talking about what you can see and what you can expect in Luxor, I think a not to be missed experience is a hot air balloon over the Valley of the Kings. It's an early morning wake up, but if you're staying on that West Bank, you're waking up a bit later than you would on the East Bank. From the East Bank to the West Bank is about a 45-minute drive. So immediately you're shaving off, you know, two hours almost in transit to get back and forth to your hotel. The flight itself lasts approximately an hour. It is subject to weather on the day, very similar to what you would find in Eastern Africa. There are 2 departure times for the balloons. However, we book the earliest departure. That way your clients can see the sunrise from the air. And to see the sunrise, you see the Nile, you see the whole West Bank, you're flying over these temples that you are later going to be exploring. It really puts things into perspective. An additional experience we can also add while in Luxor, and something that I did, is a private felucca sunset dinner. So there are different menus to choose from. You have international food, you have Egyptian food, and you have a 1-hour ride on a Nile on a traditional boat. On board, you have a private waiter for your group, and it's just a beautiful way to experience the Nile. It's very different from the Nile cruise. As I mentioned, I like to begin itineraries in Luxor, and the reason for that is that there's so much to see in the Valley of the Kings. I sailed on the Oberoi Philae. This is my preferred boat. It follows a different schedule from most boats on the Nile. So Oberoi typically embarks on Saturday or Tuesday, which is earlier than the other boats. This means that the majority of the boats are visiting the temples on the same day, which is more crowded. On the Oberoi, you tend to find less crowds. Of course, you're still going to have tourists, but it is a little bit more of an intimate experience. The boat itself is quite small compared to many other Nile cruisers. It's 22 cabins, so just 44 guests. Meals are served individually for your group. You don't dine with other travelers, but there's a bar, there's a hair salon, there's a pool, a spa, a fitness center, and the rooms on board were some of the most spacious that I've been on for a river, for sure. Your Egyptologist stays on board, or they will follow the boat via land. This depends strictly on the boat capacity. This is not something that you know ahead of time. And an alternative to a cruise would be a dahabeah, which is a traditional wooden boat. This is great if you have groups of friends traveling together or multi-generational families. These are typically 4 to 8 cabins total. So it would be a great thing to charter for that entire group if you're wanting something more intimate. Your boat spends 1 night in Luxor. This is very standard for the boat itineraries. You typically will go to Valley of the Kings in the morning. Here we can include special tomb access. The general admission ticket to Valley of the Kings includes 3 tombs, but if you're wanting to see tombs like King Tut or Seti I, those do require a pre-purchased additional ticket. King Tut's tomb, as of a couple of weeks ago, Still had the original mummy inside, which was something I was not expecting and definitely something very unique. And Seti the First is very culturally significant as it is the most restored. It is very controversial. The original colors of all of the other tombs are incredible, but definitely Egypt has poured a lot of money into Seti the First. It's a very large tomb, and seeing that compared to the original color provides a really nice visualization of how grand these tombs actually were. Other touring in Luxor, of course, will be tailored to your guests, but you can typically expect to see Habu Temple, the Colossi of Memnon, along with other West Bank sites. And if your clients mention specific sites ahead of time, definitely let us know and we can absolutely include those. And then if we can go next, please. So from Luxor, your sailing portion will begin. You typically depart after lunch, the day that you visit the Valley of the Kings. You sail through the Esna locks for an afternoon on board at leisure. It's a really nice time to just relax, sit on the deck upstairs, look at the Nile, see the daily life. This part of the Nile is very wide. Of course, interesting to see as the boats go through the Esna locks. You typically will visit Edfu Temple the following day in the morning, set sail during lunch, and then visit Kom Ombo at night. The boat will then dock in Aswan, and you still stay on board one night in Aswan. So on that first day in Aswan, you will typically tour the Aswan High Dam and Philae Temple. You'll join the boat again for your last overnight. The next day, you will disembark the boat in the morning. I recommend a day trip to Abu Simbel from Aswan, which means that your clients would need to overnight one night in Aswan for logistics. Abu Simbel is a must for any itinerary for me. It's not an expensive add-on. It is very accessible. It is a 45-minute flight from Aswan. The guest luggage will stay in Aswan, so they only need to bring a day bag. The morning flight allows them to have a few hours with their Egyptologist at Abu Simbel before flying back to Aswan, where the remainder of afternoon is at their leisure. I stayed at the Sofitel Legend Old Cataract, which is one of my absolute favorite properties. It is a very historic hotel, of course, famous for hosting Agatha Christie. It's where she wrote Death on the Nile. It has the most stunning views over the Nile. You can also do a felucca ride from here. It has an infinity pool. It has a spa. There is a very formal restaurant if your clients are wanting to dress up. It's called 1902. It's formal attire only, and it has a piano bar. So for someone who wants a special experience, a nice celebratory dinner, this would be the place to do so. Of course, they have casual options on site as well. Here, the Nile view room is a must. Otherwise, they have garden views as well. One thing to note on the Nile view room, however, is that it's only a double bed configuration. So if you're wanting 2 twin beds, you would either want to do 2 separate rooms, or they can make up a sofa bed. If your clients are wanting to unwind, have a more leisurely paced itinerary, you can also add an additional night here just to enjoy the property. It is very much a resort feel, and there's some good shopping in Aswan, and it's really nice to just have a little bit of downtime before the long journey home. So if we go to the next slide, please. I touched on a lot of these things, so I won't repeat it, but really understanding your client is crucial for Egypt. There's a lot of special moments that we can add. If your clients really like food, we can arrange a food tour. If your clients are into shopping, let us know and we will absolutely let their guide or their Egyptologist know in advance. I always say the more information we have, the better. And just as a side note, this is one of my pictures from the hot air balloon. So you can see this is an aerial of Habu Temple, which I later visited on the ground. So seeing how massive it was from the air really put things into perspective for me personally, because when I was at Habu Temple, it actually felt very small, but certainly not the case from what you see from the air. And if you could go next, please. International air, Cairo is very easily accessible. I'm based in Los Angeles. I took Turkish Air through Istanbul. Most major airlines service Egypt. Most will route through Europe or the Gulf. And we do have an in-house air team who can help with all of these logistics. For the next slide, please. We also arrange all of the domestic flights within Egypt. This is so that we can best coordinate with the touring schedule. We will typically include quotes for business class. It's not much more than economy, and it does allow your clients to have very comfortable 2x2 leather seating. One of the things that I loved about business class on Egypt Air is that they get breakfast on the plane. So as I mentioned, you do get breakfast boxes. However, this is a little bit more heartier, has some protein. It's nice to have it. That said, please note that we cannot hold flights. So flights are strictly subject to availability. And this is where I say that Egypt is not a last minute destination. Once these flights are gone, they're gone. And then we have to work around that. So handing it off again to Ruby, she'll take us through where else we can go in Egypt and what we can combine with Egypt.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. So I think, to say that that is the core of an Egypt itinerary is an understatement. So there's a lot of exciting things that we can do to really kind of make this the perfect holiday for your clients. And I know a constant struggle is, okay, they want to be gone for this amount of time or that amount of time. We rarely have the issue where they have more time and we can't fill it. But if your clients have more time where that they can spend on this particular holiday, on this trip, we've got plenty of different options to kind of add to that itinerary or even enhance it, maybe shorten parts of it and kind of add these components. So on the map, Alyssa talked about Alexandria, that's in the northern part of Egypt. We can go to Sharm el-Sheikh. You can do some diving. There's actually Mount Sinai and St. Catherine's. You can actually go out to the desert. In the White Desert, you can do the Oasis. Just a lot of fun activities in Egypt. And again, it depends on your client's interest, how much time they want to spend. But I'm more excited kind of about the next slide. So beyond Egypt. So as you know, we are UJV Africa, and I love, love, love any opportunity that a client can go on safari. So definitely Egypt combines very well with Kenya. There's a nonstop flight that goes between Cairo and Nairobi. The timing is late night, so we kind of have to play around that, but definitely a really nice combination. If someone wants more, city and then safari, we could spend 3, 4 nights in Cairo and let them dive into the Gem Museum and do the pyramids at Giza, and then they can go off to Kenya and do the safari portion of their trip. So that's a wonderful combination. We also have the other areas in Northern Africa. So you've got Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia. We can also actually combine with Jordan. So that's another amazing destination for your clients who are into archaeology. Again, like I quoted the Mummy before, but there's the movie. I can't even think of the name now. Joni, you might have to help me. Where they're at Petra and the Rose City, and I remember the first time I was there. Again, I was like, "Oh my goodness!" Yes.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes, like, so I'm a bit of
I got you.
dork in the sense that, when I was there, I was like, yes, this is where they filmed it. But it's not a film set. It's an actual location and people live there, and it's just the history and the culture is pretty amazing. So Egypt and Jordan is a wonderful combination to think of. And again, based on flight schedules, we also have, our Europe team who can help you with combining with Europe, and we can also get you down to South Africa. Um, again, because we specialize in customized holidays, we can, pretty much work around all of that. So next slide, please. Again, I kind of just touched on some of those Northern Africa countries. Um, but keep in mind, I know people think of us for Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, but we also actually customize tours to Namibia, Zambia. Definitely Uganda is coming up on the radar of a lot of people because there's a lot of wonderful new properties coming on in the country, and it gives you great access to go gorilla trekking. And of course, Botswana. We can't forget about our our sister island destinations. So we've got Madagascar, Mauritius, Seychelles, Mozambique. But again, we want to be your go-to for all things Africa. So definitely reach out to your dedicated UJV Africa consultant, talk to your business development team, and Simon, who is the Africa business development partner advisor. I forgot his new title, but he's also the wonderful person to kind of get you connected with us on the team, and we really do kind of look forward to working with you. So next slide, and I think
Yeah, so as Ruby mentioned, we really want you to be taking away who Egypt is right for, tools to pace the itinerary according to your clients, have an understanding of the logistics, and more. Something that we really pride ourselves on here at UJV is, again, that customization. We are very much hands-on. So at any point, we are always happy to hop on a call, whether that is a phone call or a video call with you and your clients, to really understand what their expectations are, what they're hoping to experience. And of course, we're always happy to revise itineraries accordingly. We send a proposal and it very much is a starting point. Tell us what they like, tell us what they don't like. We'll continue to fine tune from there. And if we could go next slide, please. In general, at UJV Africa, we provide the resources to help you think outside the box and go beyond the standard cookie cutter itinerary. As with all of UJV Africa, we do have a support team that assists with dining guides, restaurant reservations, spa treatments, and more. We have a wonderful on-the-ground support team based in Africa. They're available via WhatsApp for any in-country questions. We also have an international air team. This allows us to book and manage your clients' international flights so that you're not the one receiving that emergency call at 2 a.m. that their flight is delayed or canceled. Our goal for you is that we are providing that seamless white glove service throughout that every client deserves. And if we could go next, please. Available after today, we will be following up with all of the attendees. And again, thank you for joining us. We'll be giving you a one-page Egypt sample routing, a one-page Egypt and Kenya sample routing, as well as some additional information on Egypt. Of course, this recording will be available on YouTube if you have any questions. Always feel free to contact your advisor. Again, we're always happy to hop on a call with you. And I believe this will lead us to our Q&A session. If we could go to the next slide, please.
Thank you so much, guys. We have some very interesting questions from the Q&A. I'll start with the first one from Libby. For entry requirements, do we need a visa prior to arrival, or you mentioned the VIP arrival will assist upon arrival?
Yes, so Citizens do need a visa. However, this is obtained locally. Your clients do not need to worry about this. It will be obtained for them.
Awesome. Thank you. And then we have a question from Avantika. Which hotel is similar? Grand Bretagne and the Four Seasons.
Yes, and I say that because I've been to the one in Athens multiple times. I just think the decor is very similar. Um, I used to sell Europe for a while. I've sold Africa and Egypt for several years as well. And I think stylistically, to me, they both have that kind of old world charm. And I like to lead with that because a lot of the times we'll have clients looking for something modern when they think of a Four Seasons, and that's not the case in this property. If they're wanting something modern, we would choose an alternative property for your clients.
Thank you. And we have a question from Niha. Is this destination very vegetarian diet friendly?
Absolutely. So, of course, with any of our trips, we'll be sending a guest information form. The sooner your clients fill that out, the better. This will outline any dietary and medical restrictions. All of this information is passed along to our suppliers on the ground and will absolutely be catered to.
Thank you, Liza. We have another question from Avantika. How does Egypt work entirely by land if flights aren't available or clients are flight hesitant?
Joni, do you want to touch on that? I know I saw you
Yeah,
responded in the chat.
yeah. So you can definitely drive, and it's perfectly acceptable to do so. I mean, you have to hire a driver. I don't recommend anyone drive on their own, but you can definitely hire a driver. The only issue that I can think of is between Cairo and Luxor is 7 hours. So it is quite extensive. It is through the middle of the desert. But some really cool things. Sorry, I'm going to geek out for a minute. But the site of Amarna, which is actually the site where where King Tut's dad, it's like this big revolutionary. One of those major sites is on the way between Luxor and Cairo, and there's some other like lesser known pyramids in between Luxor and Cairo. So you could do some off the beaten path destinations en route from Cairo to Luxor. Just be advised that it is 6 hours, and between Cairo and Luxor is a lot of very, very small towns. So you're not going to have like a major city. So just keep that in mind. But once you get to Luxor, you can also drive further south. Again, it is a few hours. I think the drive is about 3 to 4 hours. And then from Aswan to Abu Simbel, you don't have to fly. But if you don't fly from Aswan to Abu Simbel, you have to wake up at about 3 a.m. to take a transfer, which is normal. People do it, but it's about a 3 hour drive between the two.
So it's 3 hours each way.
Yeah, 3 hours each way. Sorry. Yeah. So it is possible. I've done it. And there is nothing in between like the major areas. It's just pure, beautiful Sahara. So just keep that in mind. It is possible, but the distances need to be taken into account. And then you will need to wake up and leave early, and extremely modern amenities might not be accessible en route from one destination to the other, but it's a really cool opportunity to see some off the beaten path sites that not everybody does. So
Thank you, Joni.
can you
And can you describe the Nile River cruise experience for 4 nights?
That's you, Alyssa.
Yeah, so thank you, Neha. Nice to see you joining us. Of course, we'll be following up with some additional information, and we have sample itineraries that we can share with you as well. But in general, if you are starting in Luxor, you would embark in Luxor in the morning. You would visit Luxor Temple in the afternoon. You would return to the ship for dinner on board. The following day, you would visit Valley of the Kings in Luxor. Typically, set sail around 1 p.m. during lunchtime. The remainder of that day is a leisure day as you sail to Esna. You go through the Esna lock, so again, you can just enjoy the view from that top level deck, take a nap, go to the library, however you'd like to spend your day. The following day is typically Edfu Temple in the morning, embarking the boat again as you sail towards Kom Ombo, and you go to Kom Ombo in the afternoon. And the last full day on board the cruise portion would take you to Aswan High Dam and Philae Temple. You would return on board for dinner. So you do spend one night aboard the cruise in Aswan, disembark the following morning.
Thank you, Liza. We have a question from Avantika. What's a good starting daily budget per person or couple for Egypt?
For pricing, it really does depend on the time of the year and whether we're looking towards 4-star or 5-star. So keep in mind, this is a very wide range that we're talking about. In general, for things that we like to include and things to let you stand out from the competition, we'd probably be looking about 10,000 per person minimum. Of course, flights are subject to change in availability and pricing until confirmed, and we do have those optional extras. So comfortably, anywhere between 10 to 15,000 per person, I think would be a good kind of starting point. But of course, let us know your client's budgets. Let us know if they are more 4-star travelers or more 5-star travelers. As a reminder, UJV works in the 4 and the 5-star space only, and we also personally vet every property that we are selling to you.
Awesome, thank you. We have a question from Nidiha. Can you please also outline some pricing brackets based on budget, mid-range, and lux?
Yeah, so I think, again, that kind of ties into what we were just talking about. If you have very high-end clients, like the options are there. If you're adding in private visit to the Sphinx Pause, if you're adding in after hours, you can easily be 20,000 plus per person if you want to add every single optional extra special VVIP moment.
Thank you so much. And we have a question from Libby. What is the hotel you recommend in Luxor?
In Luxor, Al Mudira.
Awesome, thank you. And then we have a question from Summer. If we could send her a sample itinerary with specific price range for full itinerary.
Yeah, so again, after the webinar, we'll be following up with one-pagers, which will have sample routing. And if you would like a full sample itinerary, we do have that on hand, and it has some of these additional experiences that we like to include in that as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Liza. Any more questions, comments? If not, we are good to go. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you, beautiful ladies, for this amazing presentation. And we will, one final question, sorry. Can you dive into the other destinations? Siwa Oasis, Alexandria, Tahab, etc. And two, what's a minimum number of days you recommend and what's a healthy number of days? Thank you.
Ruby, I'm going to pass this one on to you.
I could take it too if you want, Rubes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joni, let me just start by saying, a minimum, like if you're asking what's the minimum number of days for a solid, just kind of, I've been to Egypt itinerary, I think we're looking minimum 1 week, but I think that if you're talking about adding in the weekends as well, 9 nights on the ground is what I would say is a nice happy spot as far as the core, I've been to Egypt. Now, as far as extending and visiting some of these other destinations, it has to do with how much time you have, and I'll let Joni kind of take over from there.
So these other destinations, apart from Alexandria, okay, so let's picture a map. So Siwa is going to be over here on the Western Desert. And that one is a little bit tricky to get to. It's about a 9 to 10 hour drive from Cairo, and usually but it's stunning. There's an old temple of the Oracle of Amun there, and it's a beautiful actual oasis with beautiful pools and a wonderful culture. The issue is you have to go from Cairo to this place called Musa Maha, and there's a little hotel there. So it's usually like a 3-day trip, or you could do it in one long day, but it's going to be like a 24-hour round trip experience. So usually people go like from Cairo and then they have a stopover and then they end up in Siwa. So that's usually about 3 days, and it's usually from Cairo or Alexandria. So just keep that in mind. And then it would be a round trip experience. Alexandria, of course, where the famous library used to be, is about 2.5 to 3 hours north of Cairo, right at the top of the delta. So right at the very top of the country. So you could easily do that from a day trip to Cairo, or you could stay in Alexandria. It's really up to you. But that would be in addition to your Cairo itinerary. And Dahab, where there's the famous, it's like, I think it's called the Blue Eye. It's like that famous dive site. That's going to be closer to Sharm el Sheikh. So if you're going, so usually people might want to do like a pre and post in Sharm. So either before your trip down to Cairo and down to Luxor. And so if you're staying in Sharm, that's where you would include Dahab. It's usually not included as any kind of additional stop from Cairo. So it really just depends. I mean, if you want to do a full trip, I recommend 2 weeks, but again, it really depends on what your interests are. If you just want to do the Nile and the Nile cruise, Aswan and Cairo, that's going to be a little bit shorter. But if you want to add in those additional spots, you might want to add in an additional 5 days. Just really depends on what the client wants and where they want to stay focused within the country.
Thank you, Jones. Do you ever recommend that clients take train between Cairo and Luxor?
No. Well, okay, so I've done
a long journey.
I've done it. Okay, so it's totally safe. I've actually done it by myself, and I did it by myself like 10 years ago, and so the country was a much different place than it is today. So I've done it. Do I recommend it for a luxury traveler? I think there are much more relaxing ways to get from point A to point B. So I'm just going to say no. I'd prefer if you fly or if you drive, it's probably the better option.
Thank you so much. And that would be all the questions. Thank you so much, guys, and thank you everyone for joining. You will be receiving a follow-up email with a recording of this presentation and the sample itineraries.
Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank
wonderful rest of your
Thank
day.
you for your time.
Have a nice day, everyone.